From my perch in the dim-lit corner of the tavern, the wizard's pipe smoldered lazily in the candlelight, its tendrils of smoke curling like spectral fingers. His voice was low, a storyteller weaving the strands of fate, and as he spoke, the illusion of his tale unfolded in the shifting haze before the gathered patrons, their eyes wide with anticipation. Jane and her crew rose before the dawn, though none had truly slept. The weight of unease clung to them like a second skin. Ran, Whistle, and Borin moved in silence, their movements practiced, their hearts hammering against their ribs as they slinked through the Academy's labyrinthine corridors. Even Ran, ever the skeptic, did not argue this time. There was no denying the pull of the unknown, the undeniable lure of something forbidden. The passage Jane had seen the hooded figures enter earlier now stood eerily unchanged, but as they approached, the rune on her wrist pulsed, its eerie glow sending flickering symbols across the stone wall. The air trembled, and an outline of a door shimmered into existence, intricate carvings forming a seal that had not been there before. "This wasn't here before," Jane murmured, her breath barely a whisper. "But this is where they went." Even Ran, ever logical, furrowed her brow. "That's unsettling." Whistle grinned, stepping forward with an eager glint in his eyes. "Let me," he said, already pulling free his magical lockpicks, a recent prize from his lessons with Master Garin. His nimble fingers trembled with anticipation as he worked, the enchanted picks glowing softly as they met the arcane mechanism. The door groaned in protest, stone grinding against stone, then shuddered open, revealing a sloping tunnel that plunged into the darkness below. Jane caught Whistle's shoulder before he could celebrate. "Quiet," she warned, her voice sharp but hushed. "We don't know what's down there." The wizard exhaled a slow stream of smoke, letting his awareness slip beyond the confines of flesh, beyond the tavern's warmth, beyond the wooden beams and fire-lit chatter. The threads of magic stretched before him like taut strings of a great unseen loom, connecting his consciousness to the unfolding mystery below. The illusion of the scene appeared in the swirling tendrils of smoke, and the tavern's patrons gasped as the tale came to life before their eyes. The chamber was vast, its stone walls slick with weeping condensation, the air thick with the mingling scents of burning herbs and something darker, something foul, something ancient. Hooded figures glided through the gloom, their murmured voices weaving a chant that vibrated with raw, unbridled power. In the center of the chamber, a ritual was underway. A circle of candles burned low, their light flickering wildly, casting shifting, living shadows against the stone. Jane's group hesitated at the chamber's edge, pressing themselves into the shadows, holding their breath as their druid companion whispered an incantation. The spell unfurled like mist around them, wrapping them in a veil of silence. They crept closer, each footstep swallowed by the enchantment. The figures spoke in hushed urgency, their words brittle with desperation. Magic carried the voices to Jane's ears. No, to my ears, the wizard thought, for in this moment I was both the teller and the witness. "We need more young souls. The summoning cannot be completed without them." A woman's voice, sharp as a dagger's edge, sliced through the gloom. "We must not fail this time. If the headmaster or the council discovers this, we will all be cast out. Worse, the balance will be shattered." A second voice, deep and gravelly, filled with age and secrets. A third voice, softer, deliberate, dangerous. "The girl, Jane. She's connected to this. The rune she carries. It's proof." The next name was spoken so softly it should have been lost to the cavern's vastness, yet it rang through the chamber like a bell of doom. Zarithul. A name not meant to be spoken aloud, a name that sent ripples of terror through those who had knowledge of it. Not just a demon, an ancient force, a nightmare clawing at the edges of forgotten history, waiting to be unleashed. Jane stiffened, her breath catching in her throat. The rune on her wrist pulsed violently, as if responding to the very utterance of that cursed name. The weight of fate settled on her shoulders, unseen but undeniable. Then, a single misstep, a loose stone beneath Jane's boot, kicked down the stairwell. It clattered, echoing in the cavernous space like a war drum, shattering the ritual's rhythmic murmurs. The figures stiffened. The chanting stopped. For a breathless second, the entire world hung in the balance. "Go!" Jane's whisper was urgent, her heart pounding. They turned and fled, every muscle burning as they scrambled back up the passage. The flurry of movement below was instant. Shouts, the rustling of robes, the snap of magic in the air. But the shadows clung to Jane and her crew, hiding them just enough. They burst through the corridor, slipping back into the Academy's familiar halls, just as torches flared to life behind them. They had escaped, but barely. The wizard in the tavern tightened his grip on his staff, his drink forgotten. The candle flames around him flickered wildly, trembling as if disturbed by an unseen breath. The name Zarithul echoed in his mind, a whisper of doom carried on the very fabric of magic itself. The patrons leaned forward, breathless, waiting for him to continue. But the wizard knew this was not just a story. This was the beginning of something far greater, something that would soon spill beyond the pages of legend and into the waking world. Jane was at the heart of it all. Whether she knew it yet or not, her path had been set, and the forces moving against her were already gathering their strength. Somewhere, deep in the night beneath the very academy where she had come to learn, a terrible secret had been unearthed, and the world would never be the same again.